Hello everyone, welcome to Let's Crack UPSC CSE English. In our marathon session of class 11th NCERT, in this third part, we'll continue to the Constitution at Work. Yes, Indian Constitution at Work. So friends, before going to start today's session, it's my pleasure to welcome you all on Unacademy, India's largest learning platform, where you will get unlimited access for live and recorded classes, structured courses, and many more facilities. Yes, friends, those aspirants pursuing their graduation or after their 12th examination, planning to start their preparation for civil services, they can go with our iconic subscription. Yes, in iconic subscription, they will get all the features of plus courses along with additional features like personal guidance, study planner, expert guidelines, study material, and test analysis. It's me, Rushikesh Inamdar, guiding UPSC aspirants from last 8 years. You can follow me on Unacademy and you can join our Telegram group using this link. Yes friends, Unacademy is providing 4-in-1 offer where first you will get printed notes worth rupees 10,000 absolutely free with your minimum 1 year subscription. In mega subscription offer, you will get guaranteed validity till next preliminary examination of 2022, and those aspirants are not able to fulfill their dreams to continue their UPSC preparation. Unacademy is providing loan for them. So you can chase your dream of UPSC civil services, and fourth one is 10% discount after using referral code RBI Live. Yes, this is the limited period offer, friends. In our combo subscription, you'll get huge discount. Yes, these are the new prices available for GS Plus optional and iconic subscription of general studies and optional courses. This offer is valid till 12th May. So grab this opportunity to get huge discount. Yes, these are the paid subscriptions available on our platform, where you can use referral code RBI Live to get 10% discount, and those aspirants will go with minimum 2-year iconic subscription. They will get one-on-one personal mentoring every week with top educators. These are the combo subscriptions available for general studies and optional subject. Here you can opt for 1 year, 2-year and 3-year subscription. So you can use code RBI Live to get 10% discount. Yes, we are going to start new batches from 12th May, like 1-year batch, 2-year batch and NCERT batches. We are also providing free test series for all aspirants, where we will cover complete general studies and current affairs part. Do not forget to use code RBI Live to unlock the test. And Unacademy Combat we are conducting on every Sunday morning 11 a.m. Here also you can enroll yourself using code RBI Live. And this combat is available in now Hindi and English medium. So friends, from last 2 sessions we have started to study about class 11th NCERT Indian Constitution at Work, where we have covered first 2 chapters, that is Constitution and Constitution why and how, then rights in the Indian Constitution. Now today we'll see election and representation. So friends, one of the important topic of Indian polity syllabus. So here is the fundamental duties given in Article 51A of Indian Constitution, which is under Part 4A. So we'll start today's topic, election and representation. Now friends, tell me, when we are talking, or when we are just listening to the word election, what is your first impression in your mind? Yes, what your minds reflects as an election? Please tell me. Yes, Amal, Ramkumar, Arpita, Avinash. So in today's session, we'll see each and every line about NCERT class 11th, chapter election and representation. Okay, good. Democratic India means election. Alright, anyone else? In short, so let's start with introduction of this chapter. So there is an example of one famous game. So have you ever played chess? Yes or no? So what would happen if the black knight suddenly started moving straight rather than 2.5 squares? Or what would happen if in a game of cricket there were no umpires? Yes. So if we will understand any sport or their rules, so the role of rules and regulations, which means specific rules, are very important in sport. So the change the rule and outcome of the game would be very different. So similarly, a game needs an impartial umpire whose decision is accepted by all the players, and the rule and the umpire have to be agreed upon before we begin to play a game. So what is true of a game is also true of elections. So there are different rules and systems of conducting elections. So friends, if we are when we are playing any game, so for example, there is no fixed rule for the game, and if we started that game, so during the match, the players and umpire change that or change the rules of the game, then there is no meaning of win the game or losing the game. It's the same way in election also. There are different rules or systems throughout the world to conducting elections. Now in today's chapter, we'll see one by one in details. So the outcome of the election depends on the rules we have adopted. So we need some machinery to conduct the elections in an impartial manner. Yes. So this is very important, to conduct the election or decision during the election process in an impartial manner. So when these two decisions need to taken before, and game of electoral politics can begin. So this cannot be left to any government, and that is why these basic decisions about elections are written down in the constitution of a democratic country. Yes, basic decisions about elections are written down in the constitution of a democratic country. For example, just imagine that if ruling party can change the rules of election, then what will be the outcome of elections? So ruling party will be continuing into the power, and it's not a reflection of democracy. So for democratic country, always there are basic decisions about elections are written down, right? So now we will study the constitutional provisions regarding elections and representation, and we shall focus on the importance of the method of elections. Yes, method of election chosen in our constitution, and their implications and the constitutional provisions regarding impartial machinery for conducting elections. So friends, anyone can just mention the name of the machinery in India who conducting elections. Yes, name of the machinery who conducting the elections in India. Okay, just answer. I'm not talking about any particular machine. Machinery means system. Okay, we'll discuss. In this chapter, after the finishing this chapter, we will understand different methods of election, the characteristics of the system of election adopted in our country, and the importance of provisions for free and fair elections, and the debate on electoral reforms. So, Apita, election machinery means a body who conducting elections in the country. Yes. So, let's start with the elections and democracy first. So, let us begin by asking two simple questions. Now, friends, we will understand NCERT as is it manner as it is because, yes, correct. Now we will discuss in this session itself about Election Commission of India. Yes. So friends, just moving to the next part, like in NCERT, there are various questions and answers to understand the concept. So here are the two simple questions about elections and democracy. Now first question is that, can we have democracy without holding elections? Can we have democracy without holding elections? And second, can we hold elections without having democracy? Yes, no need to answer immediately. So we will discuss all this in this session itself. So keep patience. Yes, before that, just see the cartoon given in NCERT book. They say elections are carnival of democracy. But this cartoon depicts chaos instead. So, is this true elections always, or is it good for democracy? Yes. Now, just make your opinion. We will discuss later on. So, now come to these two basic questions. Can we have democracy without holding elections? So, the first question reminds us of the necessity of representation in a large democracy. Yes, all citizens cannot take direct part in the making every decision, and therefore representatives are elected by the people, and this is how elections become important. Now friends, I hope in one of the NCERT session we have discussed about if number of people without their representative will follow the decision making process, then it will leads to chaos. And like for example, when in classroom or colleges we are taking any decision with the help of students or group of students, and if there is no any representative of that group, then every member of that group is keeping his own view and opinion, and ultimately before reaching to the conclusion there is a fish market of that questions, which means a chaos which is not reached to the final decision. So in the same case, all citizens cannot take direct part in making every decision, and therefore representatives are elected by the people, and this is how election become important. So whatever we think India as democracy, our mind invariably turns to the last elections. Elections have today become the most visible symbol of the democratic process. Yes, elections have today become the most visible symbol of the democratic process. So, we often distinguish between direct and indirect democracy. So, direct democracy is one where the citizens directly participate in the day-to-day decision making and in the running of the government. So the ancient states in Greece were considered example of direct democracy. So in a direct democracy, where the citizens directly participate in the day-to-day decision making and in the running of the government. So the ancient states in Greece were considered example of direct democracy, and many would consider local governments, especially Gram Sabhas, to be the closest example of direct democracy. But this kind of direct democracy cannot be practiced when a decision has to be taken by lakhs or crores of people. So that is why rule by the people usually means rule by people's representative. Yes, at the village level we are talking about. So the rule by the people usually means rule by people's representative. Yes. Now, yes, first of all, we'll understand this, Premna. Definitely, we will discuss all those things in detail today itself. Now, in such an arrangement, citizens choose their representatives who, in turn, are actively involved in governing and administrating the country. So the method followed to choose these representatives is referred to as an election. Thus, the citizens have a limited role in taking major decisions and in running the administration. Yes, they are not very actively involved in making of the policies. Citizens are involved only indirectly through their elected representatives. In time, arrangement where all major decisions are taken by elected representatives, the method by which people elect their representatives become very important. Yes. So, in direct democracy or indirect democracy, where the in yes, so where citizens are involved only indirectly through their elected representatives, and basically the day-to-day administration and all decisions are taken by the or with the help of elected representatives. So all major decisions are taken by elected representatives, and the method by which people elect their representative becomes very important, which we'll discuss in the election part. Now, can we hold elections without having democracy? The next question we will say that, can we hold elections without having democracy? So the second question reminds us, is this question, can we hold elections without having democracy, reminds us that not all elections are democratic, where a large number of non-democratic countries also hold elections. In fact, non-democratic rules are very keen to present themselves as democratic, and they do so by holding election in such a way that it does not threaten their rule. So, can we think some examples of such non-democratic elections? Yes. So, what is the difference between democratic and non-democratic election? And what can be done to ensure that elections in a country would be conducted in a democratic way? When we are talking about coalition is the type of government we will discuss. Yes. So here we'll understand democratic and non-democratic. So elections in a country would be conducted in a democratic way, that is free and fair, time-bound elections, which are the features of democratic nation. Yes, so there is where constitution comes in. The constitution of a democratic country, which lays down some basic rules about elections. Yes, and the details are usually left to be worked out by laws passed by the legislatures. Yes. Now, if we are talking about these basic rules, which are linked with the who is eligible to vote. Yes. Second, who is eligible to contest, who is to supervise elections, how do the voter choose their representatives, and how are the votes be counted and representatives elected. So we have to understand all these interlinked processes. Now, answer of the question, who is eligible to vote, then which also linked with the who is eligible to contest, then who is supervise election, or how do the voters choose their representatives, and how are the votes to be counted and representatives elected. So all these interlinked process of the elections we will understand one by one. So most democratic constitutions, like the Constitution of India, which answers all these questions? Yes. Like, as we can see, the first three questions are about ensuring that elections are free and fair and can thus be called democratic. So the last two questions are about ensuring a fair representation. Yes, no marginal section or any part of the society to be excluded from the process of elections. And now we will consider both these aspects of the constitutional provisions about elections, that is free and fair elections and fair representation. Now after that we'll see the basic part is election system in India. So friends, those who are still not shared the link, please share the link. We'll start important topic, that is election system in India. Yes. So we may have noted about a reference to different methods of the system of elections, and we may have wondered what these were all about. We may have seen or read about different methods of electioneering and campaigning in the elections, but what are different methods of elections? Yes, equality you are talking about, equity or equality. Yes, Apida, you was asking about equity or equality. Please clarify, so accordingly we'll clear your doubt. Now, there is a system of conducting elections and there are authorities and rules about do's and don'ts. Yes, friends. Now, so there is a system of conducting elections and there are authorities and rules about do's and don'ts. Yes, so like when we are visiting market and we are purchasing any household item, for example, if we are talking about any machine type of instrument, so always that product which comes with rules, regulations and do's and don'ts. So like the same manner in the system of conducting elections, there are rules about do's and don'ts. Now, is that what election system is all about? Now we'll understand what election system is all about. Yes, we may have wondered why the constitution needs to write down how the votes are to be counted and representatives elected. Yes. Now, some of you will keep the opinion like, if there is no rules and regulations for these such type of representation system, then the outcome of these rules are which conserving democracy or democratic values. Yes, so in the same is not that very obvious, people go and vote. So the candidate who gets highest votes get elected, and that is what elections are all over the world. So the candidate who gets the highest votes get elected, gets elected. So that is what elections are all over the world. And why do we need to think about it? So in the world context also, there are similarities between country to country about the election methods. So we need to, because this question is not as simple as it appears to us. So we have got to use to our system of election that we think that there cannot be other way. So in a democratic election, yes, we will cover proportional representation as well. Please keep patience. In today's session, we will cover maximum of your doubts. So just wait and watch. We will cover each and everything. And at the end of session or before going to start next marathon, you can ask the doubts of previous session. So we need to, because this question, that is why do we need to think about it? Because it's not as simple as it appears to us, and we have got so used to our system of elections, and that we think that there is cannot be any other way. Means with the help of experts, bureaucrats, we are discussing about various schemes and policies and the effective implementation of those policies. So in a democratic election, people vote and their preferences decides who will win the contest. But there can be very different ways in which people make their choices, and very different ways in their preferences can be counted. Yes, so these different rules of the game can make a difference to who the winner of the game will be. So some rules can favor bigger parties, some rules can help the smaller parties. Yes. So some rules can favor the majority community, others can protect the minorities. Let's look at the table. Yes. So let's look at the one dramatic instance to see how this happens. Yes, some rules can favor the majority community and others can protect the minorities. Now, now friends, see, first past the post system. In the remaining slides, most of the time we will talk about FP, TPS, yes. So it's a FPTP. Yes, friends. So now look at the newspaper clipping where we will understand first past the post system, FPTP system. Yes. So it talks one of the historic movements in the India's democracy. So in the Lok Sabha elections of 1984, the Congress party, yes, now understand friends, in the Lok Sabha elections of 1984, the Congress party came to power winning 415 of the 543 Lok Sabha seats, which is more than 80% of the seats. And such a victory was never achieved by any party in the Lok Sabha. So, in 1984, in the Lok Sabha, where Congress party secured more than 80% of the seats. So the Congress party won 4/5 of the states. And does it mean that our 4 out of 5 Indian voters voted for the Congress party? It's actually not. So take a look at the enclosed table where the Congress party got 48% of the votes. Yes. This means that only 48% of those voted in favor of the candidates put up by the Congress party, but the party still managed to win more than 80% of the seats in the Lok Sabha. So look at the performance of other parties, and the BJP got 7.4% votes but less than 1% seats. Yes, so how did it happen? Now see the chart of the Lok Sabha election of 1984. Yes, am I audible now? Yes, friends. Am I audible and visible to you all? Yes. Sorry for the inconvenience due to technical or network issue. So, now I'll just repeat. So, in the Lok Sabha elections of 1984, the Congress party came to power winning 450 out of the 543 Lok Sabha seats, which is more than 80% of the seats. So, such a victory was never achieved by any party in the Lok Sabha. Yes, the Congress party won 4/5 of the seats. So, now we'll see the table where the Congress party got 48% of the votes, which means that only 48% of those who voted in favor of the candidates put up by the Congress party. but the party still managed to win more than 80% of the seats in Lok Sabha. So there are performance of other parties is also given. Like Congress, 48% of votes with the 415 seats. BJP, 7.4% of vote with 2 seats. Yes, in the Lok Sabha elections of 1984. Then Janta Lok Dal with 6.7% of votes and 10 seats in the Lok Sabha. Then Lok Dal 5.7% with 3 seats. CPIM 5.7% with 22 seats. Then Telugu Desam 4.1 votes with 30 seats. DMK 2.3 votes. Yes, 2.3% votes with 2 seats. AIDMK 1.6% with 12 seats in the Lok Sabha. Akali Dal 1% of votes with the 7 seats, and AGP with the 1% of votes with 7 seats. So these are the performance by other parties in the election of 1984. Now let's understand. This happened because in our country we follow a special method of elections. Yes, we follow a special method of elections. So under this system, the entire country is divided into 543 constituencies. Each constituency elects one representative, and the candidate who secures the highest numbers of votes in that constituency is declared elected. Now understand, where in India we follow a special method of elections, and this system is all about where the entire country divided into 543 constituencies. Each constituency elects one representative, and the candidate who secures the highest number of votes in that constituency is declared elected or the winner. Now we'll see. There are 543 constituencies. Now see, for example, this is constituency A. Yes, just I'll explain you with the example. This is a simple method. The constituency A, and there are 3 candidates X, Y, Z contest elections. Constituency A, candidate X, Y, Z. Now in the result, so there are total, for example, see 100 voters in this constituency. How much? 100 voters are there. Now what happened after the result? X candidate secured 40 votes. Then Y candidate secured 50 votes, and Z candidate secured 10 votes. Yes. So out of these 100 votes in the constituency, votes divided like this: X candidate secured 40 votes, Y candidate 50, and Z candidate 10. Now, in which the candidate who secures highest number of votes, that is Y candidate, is the winner or representative of that constituency. Yes, this is the special method of elections. Now, it is important to note that in this system, Whoever has more votes than all other candidates is declared elected, and the winning candidate need not secure a majority of the votes. This method is called first past the post FPTP system. First past the post system. So, in the electoral race, the candidate who ahead of others who crosses the winning post first of all is the winner. And this method is also called the plurality system. Yes, friends, this system is also called the plurality system. Now, this is the method of election prescribed by the Constitution. Yes, this is the method of election prescribed by the Constitution of India. Now, so let us now go back to our example where the Congress party won greater share of seats than its share of votes because in many of the constituencies in which its candidates won, they secured less than 50% of the votes. If there are several candidates and the winning candidates often gets much less than 50% of the votes. So the votes that go to all the losing candidates go west for those candidates or parties get no seat from those votes. Suppose a party gets only 25% of the votes in every constituency, but everyone else gets even less votes. In that case, the party would win all the seats with only 25% votes or even less. Yes, FPTP system. Which clears the method of elections in our country. Now, after the first past the post system, now we'll see. Next is proportional representation. Yes, friends. Now, let us compare this how elections take place in Israel that follows a very different system of elections. Proportional representation. So, in Israel, once the votes are counted, each party is allotted yes, in Israel, once the votes are counted, each party is allotted the share of seats in the parliament in proportion to its share of votes. Yes, in Israel, yes, now proportional representation. So, now let us compare this to how elections take place in Israel that follows a very different system of elections where once the votes are counted, each party is allotted the share of seats in the parliament in proportion to its share of votes. So each party fills its quota of seats by picking those of many of its nominees from a preference list that has been declared before the elections. The system of elections is called proportional representation system, PR system. Yes. So in this system, a party gets the same proportion of seats as its proportion of votes. So in the proportional representation system, there could be two variations. In some countries, like Israel or Netherlands, the entire country is treated as one constituency and seats are allocated to each party according to its share of votes in the national election. And the other method is when the country is divided into several multi-member constituencies, as in Argentina and Portugal, and each party prepares a list of candidates for each constituency, and depending on how many have to be elected from that constituency. So in both these variations, voters exercise their preference for a party and not a candidate. So the seats in constituency are distributed on the basis of votes polled by a party, and thus representative from a constituency would and do belong to different parties. So in India, we have adopted PR system on a limited scale for indirect elections, and the constitution prescribes third and complex variation of the PR system for the election of president, vice president, and for the election to the Rajya Sabha and Vidhan Parishads. Yes, proportional representation. So friends, now see, the proportional representation in Israel. Yes, in the context of our other institutions where we are using this proportional representation, before that we'll understand in the world's context where proportional representation in Israel now Israel follows proportional representation system of election and election to the legislature yes, elections to the legislature, that is NCERT, take place every 4 years. Every party declares list of candidates, but voters vote for the party and not for the candidates. A party gets seats in the legislature in proportion to the votes polled by it. And this allows even smaller parties with very small support, yes, very small support base to get representation in the legislature. So party must get minimum 3.25% votes to be eligible to get seats in the legislature, and this often leads to a multi-party coalition government. Yes, friends. So now in this table, the result of 2015 elections of the NCERT, that is Israel's legislature. So based on this, we can find out what percentage seats varies parties got in that election. Yes. Now, yes, name of list, that is parties list, then percentage of total votes and number of seats. So friends, the party name is Likud. So Likud party secured 23.40% of total votes and 30 seats. Then Zionist camp secured 18.67% of total votes and 24 seats. Then joint lists like Hadash, National Democratic Assembly, Arab Movement for Renewal, United Arab List. So this joint list secured 10.61% of total votes and 13 seats. Then Yesh Atir secured 8.82% of total votes and 11 seats. Then Kulanu secured 7.49% of total votes and 10 seats. Then Haba It, yes, Haba It Hadehudi party, which secured 6.74% of total votes and 8 seats. Then Shahs secured 5.74% of total votes and 7 seats. Israel Bitnu, which secured 5.10% votes and 6 seats. United Torah Judaism secured 4.99% of total votes and 6 seats. Israel's left secured 3.93% of total votes and 5 seats. And other parties like 4.51% of total seats but 0 seats. So this is the bifurcation of the votes secured by the parties in Israel in 2015 elections. Now you can understand the proportional representation in Israel. Now, after that, we'll understand the comparison between FPTP and proportional representation system of election. Yes. So, first past the post and proportional representation system, where FTPT, FPTP The country is divided into small geographical units called constituencies or districts. In proportional representation system, large geographical areas are demarcated as constituencies and the entire country may be a single constituency. Yes, in FPTP, every constituency elects one representative. In proportional representative, more than one representative may be elected from one constituency. In first past the post voting system, voters votes for candidate, whereas in proportional representation system, voter votes for the party. A party may get more seats than votes in the legislature in the FPTP system, whereas every party gets seats in the legislature in proportion to the percentage of votes that it gets. Then candidate in FPTP system, the candidate who wins the election may not get majority 50%, may not get majority votes, where in PR system, candidate who wins the elections get majority of votes. So first past the post voting system is in United Kingdom and India, and proportional representation system in Israel and Netherlands. So this is the comparison between FPTP and PR system. Now we'll see how does the PR work in Rajya Sabha elections. As we have discussed, in our country, we are following this proportional representation system in few elections. Now first we'll see in Rajya Sabha elections. Yes, so a third variant of proportional representation, that is the STV, single transferable vote system, is followed for Rajya Sabha elections, and every state has a specific quota of seats in the Rajya Sabha. The members are elected by the representative state legislative assemblies, and the voters are the MLAs in that state. So every voter is required to rank candidates according to his or her preference. To be declared the winner, a candidate must secure minimum quota of votes, and which is determined by the formula, that is total votes polled divided by total number of candidates to be elected plus 1. Yes, bracket complete plus 1. So through this formula, the winner or winning candidate is declared. For example, if 4 Rajya Sabha members have to be elected by 200 MLAs in Rajasthan, so the winner could require 200 divided by 4 plus 1 is equal to 40 plus 1, that is 41 votes. So when the votes are counted, it is done on the basis of first preference, votes secured by each candidate of each candidate, of which the candidate has secured the first preference votes. Yes, if after the counting of all first preference vote, required number of candidates fail to fulfill the quota, the candidate who secured the lowest votes of the first preference is eliminated and his and her votes are transferred to those who are mentioned as second preference on those ballot papers. And this process continues till the required number of candidates are declared elected. So using this formula, total votes poll divided by total number of candidates to be elected plus 1, and after that bracket completed in 1, this formula is used for the proportional representation system in Rajya Sabha elections. Now, next question is that why our country adopted first past the post system of voting? Now, the answer is not very difficult to guess. So, if we have carefully read the box explaining the Rajya Sabha elections, yes, we will notice that it is a complicated system which may work in small country, but would be difficult to work in a subcontinental country like India. Yes, excuse me, friends, but would be difficult to work in subcontinental country like India. And the reason for the popularity and success of the first past the post system is its simplicity, and the entire election system is extremely simple to understand even for common voters who may have no specialized knowledge about politics and elections. So due to the simplicity and the diversification or the vast area, we opted first past the post election system, voting system. So there is also clear choice which presented to the voters at the time of elections. Yes, so there is also clear choice which presented to the voters at the time of elections, and voters have to simply endorse a candidate or a party while voting. Depending on the nature of actual politics, voter may either give greater importance to the party or to the candidate or balance the two. So the FPTP system, which offers voters a choice not simply between parties but specific candidates. So in other electoral system, especially PR system, voters are often asked to choose a party and the representative are elected on the basis of the party lists, and as a result there is no one representative who represent and responsible for the one locality. So in constituency based system like FPTP, the voters know who their own representative is and can hold him or her accountable for the works to be done in the constituency. Now see the cartoon. So these members of the ruling party are trying to listen to the tiny opposition. Was this effect of our electoral system? Now understand. So, more importantly, the members of our constitution also felt that proportional representation based on election may not be suitable for giving a stable government in a parliamentary system. So we shall study the nature of parliamentary system of executive, yes, in the next session. So this system requires that the executive has majority in the legislature, and we will notice that the proportional representation system may not produce a clear majority. Because seats in the legislature would be divided on the basis of share of votes. So the FPTP system generally gives the largest party or coalition some extra bonus seats. More than their share of votes would be allowed. Thus, the system makes it possible for parliamentary government to function smoothly and effectively by facilitating the formation of the stable government. And finally, the first past the post voting system encourages voters from different social groups to come together to win an election in the locality. Yes, in diverse country like India, a PR system would encourage each community to from its own nationwide party, and this may also have been the back of the mind of our constitution workers. Yes, now understand how they identified the concerns and they took decision accordingly. So the experience of the working of the constitution has confirmed the expectation of the constitution makers, and the FPTP yes, FPTP system has proved to be simple and familiar to ordinary voters, and it has helped larger parties to win clear majorities at the center and the state level. So the system has also discouraged political parties that get all their votes only from one caste or community. And normally, the working of first post the past, first past the post system, yes, first past the post system results in the two party system, which means that there are two major competitors for power, and power is often shared by these two parties alternatively. So it is difficult for next parties or the third party to enter the competition or share power. So in this respect, the experience of FPTP in India is slightly different. After independence, though we adopted the FPTP system, there emerged, yes, there emerged a one party dominance, and along with it, there existed many smaller parties. After 1989, India is witnessing the functioning of multi-party system or coalitions, and at the same time, gradually in many states, the two-party competition is emerging. But the distinguishing features of India's party system is that rise of coalitions has made it possible for new and smaller parties to enter into electoral competition in spite of the FPTP system. Yes, after the FPTP system, we'll see reservation of constituencies. Reservation of constituencies. We have noticed that in the first past the post election system, the candidate who secures the highest votes in particular constituency is declared elected. So this often works to the disadvantage of the smaller social groups, and this is even more significant in the Indian social context. Yes, we have had a history of caste-based discrimination, and in such a social system, the FPTP electoral system can mean that a dominant social group and caste can win everywhere, and the oppressed social groups may continue to remain unrepresented. So our constitution makers were aware of this difficulty and the need to provide a way to ensure fair and just representation to oppressed social groups. Yes, which is marginalized section. So this issue was debated even before independence and the British government, which had introduced separate electorates. Yes, reservation of constituencies. Now, this system meant for the electing a representative from a particular community, and only those voters would be eligible who belong to that community. So in this constituent assembly, the members expressed a fear that will not suit our purposes, and therefore it was decided to adopt the system of reserved constituencies. And in this system, all voters in a constituency, yes, now understand, when in constituent assembly many members expressed a fear that this will not suit our purposes, therefore it was decided to adopt the system of reserved constituencies. And in this system, all voters in constituency are eligible to vote, but the candidates must belong to only particular community or social section for which the seat is reserved. Yes, which means in these reserved constituencies, everyone has right to vote. But if we are talking about contesting elections, as per the reservation, the particular community or social section can fight for that seat. Yes, so there are certain social groups which may be spread across the country. In particular constituency, their numbers may not be sufficient to be able to influence a victory of a candidate. And however, taken across the country, they are significantly sizable group to ensure their proper representation, and a system of reservation becomes necessary. Yes, then the constitution provides for reservation of seats in the Lok Sabha and legislative assemblies for the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So this provision was made initially for a period of 10 years, and as a result successive constitutional amendments, it has been extended up to 2020. So the parliament can take a decision to further extend it, and when a period of reservation expires, the number of seats reserved for both of the groups is in proportion to their share in the population of India. And of the 543 elected seats in the Lok Sabha and 84 reserved for scheduled castes, and 47 are reserved for scheduled tribes. Yes, these are the reservation of seats as on 26 January 2019. Now, friends, there was a debate in the Constituent Assembly where Tajamul Hussain, the leader, which is opinion that separate electorates have been a curse to India. Yes, according to his opinion, separate electorates have been a curse to India and have done incalculable harm to this country. So separate elections have barred on, yes, so separate elections have barred our progress, and we, that is Muslim, want to merge in the nation, and for God's sake keep your hands off reservation for the Muslim community. So these are the lines by the Tajmul Hussain, the member of Constituent Assembly. Now, but after that there is one statement by Jaipal Singh, who was also member of the Constituent Assembly. But I have come to say a few words. Yes, he told that on behalf of the Adivasis of India, in the past, thanks to the major political parties, thanks to yes, thanks to the major political parties, thanks to British government and thanks to every enlightened Indian citizen. So we have been isolated and kept at where in a zoo we are willing to mix up or mix with you, and it is for that reason. Yes, so we have insisted on a reservation of seats as far as the legislature are concerned, and we have not asked for separate electorates. So under the 1935 Act, though the legislature in India, there were altogether only 24 Adivasis MLA out of total 1585, and not a single representative at the center. So these are the words by the Jaipal Singh or in the debate in the Constituent Assembly. Now next, yes, we discussed about reservation. Now main question is that who decides which constituency is to be reserved? Yes friends, as we have discussed about reservation of constituencies, now next question is that who decides which constituency is to be reserved and on what basis is this decision taken? So this decision is taken by an independent body called Delimitation Commission. Yes friends. So now we'll see. The decision is taken by an independent body called the Delimitation Commission. So the Delimitation Commission is appointed by the President of India and works in collaboration with the Election Commission of India. So the Delimitation Commission is appointed by the President of India and works in collaboration with the Election Commission of India. It is appointed for the purpose of drawing up the boundaries of constituencies all over the country, and the quota of constituencies to be reserved in each state is fixed upon depending on the proportion of SC and ST. Yes, SC and ST in that state. So after drawing the boundaries, those constituencies that have the highest proportion of scheduled tribe population are reserved for ST, and in the case of scheduled caste, the Delimitation Commission looks at two things. Yes, so but it also spreads these constituencies in different regions of the state, and this is done because the scheduled caste population is generally spread evenly throughout the country, and the reserved constituencies can be rotated each time the delimitation exercise is undertaken. Yes, which means the constituencies reserved for SCs are reserved as per the rotation in throughout the country, and this is decision final by the Delimitation Commission. So the constitution does not make similar reservation for other disadvantaged groups, and of late there has been a strong demand which seeking reservation of seats in the Lok Sabha and the state assemblies for women. Now, given the fact that very few women are elected to representative bodies and the demand for reserving one-third seats for women is increasingly being articulated, and reservation of seats for women has been provided for in rural and urban local bodies, and we shall discuss this later on in the chapter heading local governments. So similar provision for Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha would require an amendment to the constitution, and such an amendment has been proposed several times in the parliament but has not yet been passed. Now, free and fair elections. Yes. The true test of any election system is its ability to ensure a free and fair electoral process. If we want democracy to be translated into reality on the ground, it is important that the election system is impartial and transparent. The system of election must also allow the aspirations of the voter to find legitimate expression through the electoral results. Now, why free and fair elections important for democratic system? Because the democracy to be spread, or the roots of democracy to be fixed at the grassroots level. It's mandatory for the free and fair elections, and the system of election which must also allow the aspirations of the voter to find legitimate expression through the electoral results. Now, then universal franchise and right to contest. So apart from laying down a method of elections, the constitution answers to basic questions about elections. Who are the voters and who can contest elections? So in both these respects, our constitution follows the well-established democratic practices. So we already know that democratic elections require that all adult citizens of the country must be eligible to vote in the elections, and this is known as universal adult franchise. So in many countries, citizens had to fight long battles with the rulers and to get this right. So in many countries, women could get this right very late and only after a struggle. So one of the important decisions of the framers of Indian Constitution was to guarantee every adult citizen in India the right to vote. Yes, friends. So our constitution makers ensure that to guarantee every adult citizen in India the right to vote. So till 1989, an adult Indian being a citizen above the age of 21, and then amendment to the constitution in 1989 they reduced the eligibility age to 18, which means till 1989 those citizens have aged more than 21 years can participate in voting process, and now this limit reduced in through the amendment to the constitution, and the age reduced to eligibility, yes, to 18 years old. So adult franchise ensures that all citizens are able to participate in the process of selecting their representatives, and this is consistent with the principle of equality and no discrimination. Yes. So the consistency with the principle of equality and non-discrimination that we studied in the chapter on rights. So many people through though and may think so today that giving the right to vote to everyone irrespective of educational qualification was not right, but our constitution makers had a firm belief in the ability and worth of all adult citizens as equal in the matter of deciding what is good for the society or the country and for for their own constituencies. So that's why Now, so what is the true of the right to vote and is also true of the right to contest elections? All citizens have the right to stand for election and become the representative of the people. And whenever there are different minimum age requirement for contesting elections, for example, in order to stand for Lok Sabha or Assembly elections, a candidate must have or must be at least 25 years old. There are some other restrictions also. For instance, there is a legal provision that a person who has undergone imprisonment for 2 or more years, or yes, for some offences qualified for contesting elections, but there are no restrictions of income, education, or class or gender on the right to contest elections. So, in this sense, our system of election is open to all citizens. Now, see why universal adult franchise compared to an elephant. It is unmanageable, or it is like the story in the every describes the elephant only by its parts. Yes. Now next, Independent Election Commission. Yes, friends, we'll talk about Independent Election Commission. Yes. Now, several efforts have been made in India to ensure the free and fair election system and process. The most important among these is the creation of an independent election commission to supervise and conduct elections. And we know that in many countries there is an absence of an independent mechanism for conducting elections. Yes. So why we need independent election commission? Because the election commission's main role is supervise and conduct elections. So we can say these elections to ensure by the election commission that they will take care of the free and fair election system and processes. So we know that in many countries there is an absence of independent mechanism for conducting elections. So how? Election commission is mandatory or important, playing in the role in the democracy. So Article 324 Clause 1, which described as the superintendence, directions, and control of the preparation of the electoral rolls. So Article 324 Clause 1 which describes the superintendent's direction, control of the preparation of the electoral rolls, and the conduct of all elections to Parliament and sorry, Parliament and to the legislature of the every state, and of elections to the offices of President, Vice President, held under this Constitution shall be vested in a commission. So this article which referred to in this Constitution as the Election Commission. Next, Article 324 of the Indian Constitution, which provides for an independent election commission. For the superintendent direction and control of the electoral roll and of elections in India. And these words in the Constitution are very important, for they give the election commission a decision role in virtually everything to do with elections. And the Supreme Court has agreed with this interpretation of the Constitution. So these words in the Constitution area are very important, and for they give the election commission a decisive role in virtually everything to do with elections. Yes, to assist the Election Commission of India, there is a Chief Electoral Officer. Yes, Chief Electoral Officer in every state. And the Election Commission is not responsible for the conduct of local body elections. As we shall study in the chapter on local government, the state election commissioner work independently of the Election Commission of India, and each has its own sphere of operation. Yes. Article 324 of the Indian Constitution. Then the Election Commission of India can either be a single member or multi-member body. So till 1989, the Election Commission was single member. So just before the 1989 general elections, two election commissioners were appointed and making the body multi-member. And soon after the elections, the commission reverted to its single member status. Then in 1993, yes, two election commissioners are once again appointed, and the commission become multi-member and has remained multi-member since then. So initially there were many apprehensions about a multi-member commission. There was a strap between of opinion between the chief election commissioner and the other commissioners about who had how much power. The matter had to be settled by Supreme Court, and now there is a general consensus that a multi-member election, yes, multi-member election commission is more appropriate, as power is shared and there is greater accountability. Next, the Chief Election Commissioner, CSE, presides over the Election Commission but does not have more power So, the Chief Election Commissioner, which presides over the Election Commission, but does not have more powers than other election commissioners. What is mean by that? So they have equal powers, and the Chief Election Commissioner and the two election commissioners have equal powers to take all decisions relating to elections as a collective body. Yes, the Chief Election Commissioners and other two election commissioners are working as a collective body and have equal powers to take all decisions relating to elections. So they are appointed by the President of India. Yes, the Chief Election Commissioner and election commissioners are appointed by the President of India on the advice of the Council of Ministers. So, it is therefore possible for a ruling party to appoint a partisan person to the commission who might favor them in the elections, and this fear has led many to suggest that this procedure should be changed. So many persons have suggested that a different method should be followed that makes consultation with the leader of opposition and the Chief Justice of India necessary for the appointment of Chief Election Commissioner and election commissioners. So when we are talking about the role of election commission should be impartial, then the appointment of the member of this body also should be impartial. So the constitution ensures that security of tenure of Chief Election Commission and election commissioners. They are appointed for a 6 period of term or continue till the age of 65, whichever is earlier. The election commissioner can be removed before the expiry of the term by the president if both houses of parliament make such a recommendation with a special majority. Yes, the removal procedure for the Chief Election Commissioner, followed by the Office of the President of India, where both houses of parliament make such a recommendation with a special majority for this removal. So this is done to ensure that ruling party cannot remove a Chief Election Commissioner who refuses to favor it in elections. The election commissioners can be removed by the President of India. So the Election Commission of India has a wide range of functions. So it supervises the preparation of up-to-date voter lists. It makes every effort to ensure that the voters list is free of errors like non-existence of names of registered voters or existence of names of those non-eligible or non-existent. It also determines the timing of elections and prepares the election schedule. The election schedule, which includes the notification of elections, date from which nominations can be filed, last date for filing nominations, last date of scrutiny, last date of withdrawal, date of polling and date of counting and declaration of results. So The Election Commission is preparing schedule for the complete election, like from the notification to the announcement of results. So during this entire process, the Election Commission has the power to take decisions to ensure free and fair poll. So it can postpone or cancel the election in the entire country or a specific state or constituency on the grounds that the atmosphere is vitiated and therefore a free and fair election may not be possible. The Commission also implements a model code of conduct for parties and candidates. So it can order a repoll in specific constituency. So it can also order recount of votes when it feels that the counting process has not been fully fair and just. So the Election Commission accords recognition to political parties and allots symbols to each of them. So the Election Commission has very limited staff of its own. It conducts the elections with the help of the administrative machinery. However, once the election process has begun, the Commission has control over the administration as far as election related work is concerned. And during the election process, the administrative officers of the state and central governments are assigned election related duty, and in this respect the Election Commission has full control over them. The Election Commission can transfer the officers or stop their transfers. It can take action against them for failing to act in a non-partisan manner. So over the years, the Election Commission of India has emerged as an independent authority which has asserted its powers to ensure fairness in the election process. So it has acted in an impartial and unbiased manner in order to protect Yes. So over the years, the Election Commission of India has emerged as an independent authority which has asserted its powers to ensure fairness in the election process, and it has acted in an impartial and unbiased manner in order to protect the sanctity of electoral process and the record of Election Commission, which also shows that every improvement in the functioning of institutions does not require legal or constitutional change. So it is widely agreed that the Election Commission is more independent and assertive now than it was till 25 years ago. So this is not because the powers of constitutional protection of the Election Commission have increased, but the Election Commission has started using more effectively the powers it always had in the constitution. So since 1951-52, 17th Lok Sabha elections have been held. Many more state assembly elections and by-elections have been conducted by the Election Commission. And the Election Commission has faced many difficult situations, such as holding elections in militancy affected areas like Assam, Punjab, and Jammu and Kashmir. It has also faced the difficult situations of having to postpone the election process midway in 1991 when ex-Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated during campaigning. In 2002, the Election Commission faced another critical situation when the Gujarat Assembly was dissolved and elections had to be conducted. But the Election Commission found that unprecedented violence in that state had made it impossible to hold free and fair elections immediately. So the Election Commission decided to postpone elections to the State Assembly by a few months, and the Supreme Court upheld this decision of the Election Commission. Yes, friends. So how the wide range of function of Election Commission. So in constitutional or in democratic system, the importance of independent election commission where the conducting free and fair elections which empowers the values of democracy, where we have covered all the details of election commission with their functions and information related to that. Now we'll see spatial majority. Yes, friends, spatial majority means two-thirds majority of those present and voting and simple majority of the total membership of the House. So let us say we have to pass a resolution with a spatial majority. So if there are 57 members, but on the day of voting, only 51 members are present and 50 members participated in voting, then the resolution has been passed with spatial majority in that situation or not. So during the session of this class 11th NCERT, we'll more discuss about spatial majority in details. I'll just go through a cartoon. Yes, this cartoon is related to the Election Commission. Now friends, will see electoral reforms. So no system of election can ever be perfect, and in actual election process, there are bound to be many flaws and limitations. So any democratic society has to keep searching for mechanisms to make elections free and fair to the maximum. So with the acceptance of adult suffrage, freedom to contest elections, and the establishment of an independent election commission, India has tried to make its election process free and fair. And however, the experience of the past 66 years has given rise to many suggestions for reforming our election process. Yes, the election system. Now, the election commission, political parties, various independent groups, and many scholars have come up with proposals for electoral reform. Some of these suggestions are about changing the constitutional provisions discussed here, like our system of elections should be changed from FPTP to some variant of the proportional representation system. And this would be ensure that parties get seats as far as possible in proportion to the votes they get. Then there should be a special provision to ensure that at least one-third women are elected to the parliament and assemblies. There should be stricter provisions to control the role of money in electoral politics, and the elections expenses should be paid by the government out of a special fund. Candidates with any criminal case should be barred from contesting elections, even if their appeal is pending before a court. Yes, we are talking about reforms, and there should be a complete ban on the use of caste and religious appeals in the campaign. There should be a law to regulate the functioning of political parties and to ensure that they function in a transparent and democratic manner. Yes, these are but few suggestions. So there is no consensus about these suggestions. And even if there was consensus, there are limits to what the laws and formal provisions can do. Free and fair elections can be held only if the candidates and the parties and those involved in the election process agree to abide by the spirit of democratic competition. So apart from legal reforms, there are two other ways to ensuring that elections reflect the expectations and democratic aspirations of the people. So one is, of course, that people themselves have to be more vigilant, more actively involved in political activities. But there are limits to the extent to which ordinary people can engage in politics on a regular basis. And therefore, it is necessary that various political institutions and voluntary organizations are developed and are active in functioning as watchdog for ensuring free and fair elections. Yes. Now, just read a cartoon. So let's talk about contesting the participants from or the candidates from criminal backgrounds. Now, so in this, we'll just conclude with the in countries where representative democracy is practiced, elections and the representative character of those elections are crucial factors in making democracy effective and trustworthy. The success of India's election system can be gauged from a number of factors. Like our election system has allowed the voters not only to freely choose representatives but also to change governments peacefully, both at the state and national level. Secondly, voters have consistently taken a keen interest in the election process and participated in the number of candidates and parties that contest elections is on the rise. And thirdly, the system of election has proved to be accommodative and inclusive. The social composition of our representatives has changed gradually, and now our representatives come from many different social sections. Through the number of women legislators have not increased satisfactorily. Fourthly, the election outcome is most part of the country does not reflect electoral malpractices and rigging. And of course, many attempts at rigging do take place. Sorry, we must have read about violence and complaints and that voters' names disappear from the voters list, about intimidation and so on. So, yet such instances rarely directly affect the outcome of the election. Then, finally, and most importantly, elections have become a part and parcel of our democratic life. No one can imagine a situation where a government would disrespect the verdict of an election. And similarly, no one can imagine that a government would be formed without holding elections. And in fact, regularity and periodicity of elections has earned fame for India as a great democratic experiment. So all these factors have earned for our election system a respect within and outside the country. The voter in India has gained confidence. The legitimacy of the election commission has increased in the eyes of the people. This vindicates the basic decisions taken by our constitution makers. And if the election process becomes more flawless, we as voters and citizens should be able to share more effectively in this carnival of democracy and make it more meaningful. Yes, the National Voters' Day pledge. So, we the citizens of India, having abiding faith in democracy and hereby pledge to uphold the democratic traditions of our country and the dignity of free, fair, and peaceful elections, and to vote in every election fearlessly and without being influenced by consideration of religion, race, caste, community, language, and any inducement. So, friends, the National Voters' Day pledge, so which is more talked about, like with the citizens of India having abiding faith in democracy, pledge to uphold the democratic traditions of our country and the dignity of free, fair, and peaceful elections, and to vote in every election fearlessly and without being influenced by considerations of religion, race, caste, community, language, or any inducement. So, as a citizen, it's our duty to participate in all elections. Yes, to perform fearlessly and without any impact or prejudice. So, friends, in today's session, we have covered election and representation. Yes, so we have covered the introductory part, like there are different rules and systems of conducting elections. Why in sports and democracy we need rules, like for the sports, as rule are important, like in democracy or in election as well, rules are important. The impartial manner is very efficient in sports and in election or democratic country as well. So we have covered different methods of elections, characteristics of the system of election adopted in our country, importance of the provisions of free and fair elections, and debate on electoral reforms. So initially we discussed about elections and democracy, where we talked about the two simple questions like, can we have democracy without holding elections? And can we hold elections without having democracy? So, whenever we think India as a democracy, our mind invariably turns to the last elections of the country. So, elections have today become the most visible symbol of the democratic process. So, there are direct and indirect democracy. So, direct democracy, where the citizen directly participate in the day-to-day decision making and in the running of the government. Whereas in indirect democracy, citizens choose their representative who in turn are actively involved in governing and administrating the country. Then we discuss about election system in India. Where we have discussed first past the post system, then we have discussed the example of Lok Sabha Elections of 1984, where Congress secured 48% of votes with 415 seats, and proportionally the vote percentage of other parties and seats. Then we have discussed about a spatial method of elections. Like the entire country is divided into 543 constituencies. Each constituency elects one representative, and the candidate who secures the highest number of votes in that constituency is declared elected. So the first past the post system is also known as plurality system. Then we have discussed about proportional representation with the examples. Then proportional representation in Israel. Then we discussed about comparison between first past the post voting system and proportional representation voting system of election. In FPTP, the country is divided into small geographical units, which is known as constituencies or districts, and in proportional representation system, where large geographical areas are demarcated as constituencies, or the entire country may be a single constituency. FPTP, every constituency elects one representative, where in PR system, more than one representative may be elected from one constituency. Voters votes for the candidate in FPTP system, whereas in PR system, voters votes for the party. Apart in first past the vote, first past the post system, a party may get more seats than votes in the legislature, whereas every party gets seats in the legislature in proportion to the percentage of votes that it gets. Then candidate who wins the election may not get the majority of votes in FPTP system, and in PR system candidate who wins the elections gets majority of votes. So the first past the post system of voting is in United Kingdom and India, and in Israel and Netherlands, where proportional representation system is followed. Then we learned about the Rajya Sabha elections, where single transferable vote system of proportional representation is followed in our country. Then we learned about why India adopt the FPTP system. Then reservation of constituencies for the SCs, STs and women. We have learned about the statement in the Constituent Assembly debate over the reservation by the member Tajmul Hussain and Jaipal Singh. Then we discussed about the mode provisions of the reservation. Then we talked about free and fair elections, universal franchise and right to contest, then independent election commission, independent election commission, then article 324 clause 1, which is talked about the superintendent's direction and control of the preparation of the electoral rolls for and the conduct of elections to parliament, to the legislature of every state, and of election to the offices of president, vice president, which held under this constitution, shall be vested in a commission, yes, which is known as the election commission. So article 324 of the constitution provides an independent election commission. Then we have learned about the historic formation of election commission and the changes during the year. Yes, in the various provisions for the chief election commissioner. Then functions of the election commission we have discussed. And then electoral reforms. Talked about few suggestions, and then we covered the few conclusion or suggestions. So friends, then we talked about the National Voters Day. So friends, that's it for today's session of marathon session. In next long session, we'll continue with the class 11th NCERT. So till the time, keep studying, keep revising. Please like, share and subscribe Unacademy videos. And friends, do not forget to attend free test series by Unacademy. And we are also conducting Unacademy Combat on every Sunday morning 11 a.m. You can enroll yourself using code RBI Live. And friends, this is the limited period offer till 12th May, where you will get huge discount in general studies and optional subscription, that is combo subscription. So hurry up and subscribe now with this awesome offer for the discount. And you can join our Telegram group as well for further guidance related to admission and all that. So till the time, keep studying, keep revising. Thank you. Take care. All the best.